record. All right, we good?
Yep, I see
Cool.
it.
Well, thank you for coming to my small business finals presentation. Super appreciate it. I'm Allison. And as English speakers, you and I can go pretty much anywhere and find someone who speaks our language. However, non-English speakers don't have this luxury. To them, the world is so much smaller and can be pretty intimidating. At Self-Express, our goal is to liberate people from fear by improving language learning. And the first country I want to help is Japan. When I was living in Japan, I had so many people come up to me and tell me their dreams and goals and then follow it up with, but I can't because I don't speak English. And that made me really sad. Japan wants to learn English, but they're struggling. And it's not for lack of trying, because like when they're 10, they start studying and they pour so much time and resources into it. But of the 126.5 million Japanese population, only 20 to 30% can speak English fluently. So it's a bit of a problem. And most language courses teach in a mimicking fashion, right? Words and phrases are provided in the student's native tongue, immediately followed by the translation. You repeat the words and get gold stars. But because the student doesn't need to work for this knowledge, it's easily forgotten. Plus, most language courses on the market aim to teach English speakers foreign languages, and Japanese people don't know about them. I taught English to hundreds of students all over central Japan for 18 months, and no one had ever heard of Duolingo, Mango Languages, Pimsleur, or Rosetta Stone. In Japan, English is predominantly taught through daily one-on-one lessons averaging at 25 minutes, but students could easily spend up to 2 hours a day in English lessons, which is crazy. And they subscribe to these lessons for a fee of roughly 60 to 100 US dollars. In Japan, my top 3 competitors are Rare Job, Native Camp, and BizMates. All these companies cover conversation basics and simple business skills in English, but that's it. Customers are spending time and money on services that are limited and ultimately ineffective. At Self-Express, we aim to help students learn English naturally and effectively in less time. We'll do this with our self-paced curriculum that students can customize according to their interests and by providing opportunities to practice with native speakers. The first step is identifying why the students want to learn English, right? And then we'll help them set concrete goals based off of that. Now, babies learn languages through context connection, right? And so our courses will emulate this process. Students will be provided a list of words and phrases in English and then search for their meaning in various example videos of native speakers using them. After a few examples, they'll unlock an explanatory video teaching the grammatical principles and how to use them, and this will be in their native language. As our library grows, students will be able to take modules from different courses and put them together to create their own custom curriculum. We'll also offer one-on-one lessons by appointment and monthly subscription. Now, as I said in the beginning, the purpose of creating this course is to liberate people from fear. With this curriculum design, students will be able to realize that they're a lot more capable of language learning than they think, and that they can learn things that they care about. For our minimal viable product, we'll implement these 3 crucial aspects: being beginner-friendly, self-paced, and having opportunities for live conversations. I aim to launch my first course in October 2021. Now through April will be course development. May through June is beta testing and gathering feedback. On July 5th, I'll test launch the course to see if people will actually buy it. And then July through September will be spent polishing up the course and hiring at least 3 teachers and then launching the course. Now, I realize I cannot do this all by myself. I need advisors and a team. So by next April, I aim to hire an accountant and marketing team that has experience working with Japanese people. And I also have a list of potential advisors who have experience doing business internationally, teaching English at Japanese universities, and marketing to Japanese people. Our target market is 20 to 40-year-old Japanese college students and working middle class who want to improve their English skills but don't have time for hours and hours of lessons. The more I learn about my target market, I've identified 3 relationships that I want to cultivate with them. These are self-service, dedicated person relationships, and community. Self-service relationships will be built from our online courses, customers can find and complete them all on their own. Dedicated person relationships will come through the one-on-one lessons with teachers. And through my competitor analysis, I found that the best way to communicate with this group of people is on Instagram and YouTube. So we'll be building our community there by posting interactive videos, teaching basic language learning principles, and just daily life in Western culture. An Instagram feed will also be helpful, but it'll be a secondary focus to the YouTube channel. I've also found several social media influencers who already have a toe in the language learning communities in Japan, so I plan to reach out to them and do a collaboration so I don't need to build my community completely from scratch, right? We'll also use search network ads through Google to reach our target market. I think the most appropriate setup for my business is an LLC because it leaves room for growth, but it's not overly complicated in terms of paperwork and taxes. I'm in New York, and so the cost of filing an LLC is $200, which I currently have the funds for that, but I'm waiting to file until after test launching the course because I want to see if this business is actually viable in action and not just in theory before paying that. And as the company grows, I would consider upgrading to a C Corp so I can take better care of my employees. So there are 3 main revenue streams here at Self-Express. We have course sales, monthly subscriptions, and one-off lessons. Course sales are, of course, asset sales, and then we have subscription sales, right? So courses will sell for $199, monthly subscriptions at $120, and one-off lessons at $38. Startup costs total at roughly $4,200, and fixed monthly costs are $512. Variable costs include teachers' wages, royalties, advertising, and currency conversion. Teachers will be paid 50% of all one-off lessons and monthly subscriptions, which equals roughly $20 an hour. I'm not sure if I'll use royalties, but I've added a 10% royalty cost to the budget just in case. And since we'll be using social network ads, that averages at about $2.50 per click. When calculating currency conversion, I'm using Stripe's pricing of 0.5%. With all of these assumptions, my total variable costs for the first 3 months are as shown, and my total revenue in the first 2 years is roughly $590,000 with a 72% profit margin. Next. I actually currently have all the funds to cover the startup costs, and because of this, I'll be able to break even within the first month, especially since all my fixed costs are pretty low. And I currently have access to all the cameras, lights, and sound equipment that I need in order to create the instructional videos for the course, but I would like to eventually have my own equipment, and all of that in total costs about $3,000 to purchase. So if my projection is correct, 3 months after opening, I should have the funds in order to make this purchase. No. So the balance sheet is pretty straightforward because we don't have tangible products. We're not buying or selling inventory and things like that. So the main changes you'll see are in cash, retained earnings, and owner's equity. And you'll also see here in month 3 that that's when we purchase the equipment. So from this income statement, you can see that revenue is mainly coming through course sales. That's the most profitable one. And then our biggest expenses are advertising and hiring teachers. This also is the quarter where we'll buy the equipment, so that's pretty pricey. Because I'm in New York City, LLCs pay filing fees and they pay income taxes on the distributions they earn from the company, but that's based off of a flat dollar rate. So until I'm earning $100,000, that all totals $25 for me, leaving me with a net profit of roughly $4,300. Now, there's a lot of groundwork to be done, a lot of stuff that needs to happen before this can really get off the ground, but I believe it's all doable and that once we get started, we can really do a lot of good in the world. So let's go liberate the world from fear, one country at a time.
Questions? All right, wonderful. Wow, I thought you sure did cover a lot in a short amount of time. I mean, that's not hard. That's not easy to do. I mean, in Shark Tank, they usually have like a ton of time to pitch and present. But a few questions I have concerning, one concerning your competition, right? You discussed 3 major companies in Japan that do similar things to your company, right? Mm-hmm. And you did talk a little about the difference. those companies are already established, correct?
Yes.
Within Japan.
Mhm.
What do you think are some of their strengths that your company will also implement?
That my company will also implement. That is a good question. Honestly, this business model is one that I think needs improvement, the one that I just presented to you. I don't think this will be the
Mm-hmm.
final model that I go with. And honestly, I think it's going to be very different. So some strengths that my competitors have that I know that I will also need and like have to implement are credibility. Because in Japan, that's a country that really cares about you have the right certifications, you went through college, you have all your papers in order. And you know, right now, I don't have that, right? I'm not majoring in linguistics or childhood development or anything like that. So I feel like that edge is something that I want. The business model that I'm hoping to like kind of go towards is, are you familiar with Donald Miller at all?
Donna Miller, remind me, game name sounds very familiar.
He wrote like the 1,000 Foot Journey or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he has an online course called Business Made Simple. And I feel like the business model that I want to eventually go towards is more similar along those veins. Because right now, courses are sold as asset sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
Customers completely own them once they purchase them. And with Donald Miller's approach, he has all of his resources and courses for business. And for an annual subscription, you have unlimited access to all of that. And so I feel like that subscription and returning customer purchases is something I want to lean more towards. And also, then that can be a place where I can post, hey, these are places where you can find teachers and tutors for cheap, or here are options for practicing for free. And I don't need to be the one paying and hiring all the teachers, because that is one of the strengths that these other companies have, is that they have a lot of teachers already established. Granted, they're totally ripping their teachers off, because I don't know how they're making a profit and also giving the teachers what they deserve when they're only charging $60 a month. Like, that is just not good math. But yeah, I feel like credibility and teachers is something that my competitors currently have. But something that if I were to do teachers that I would one up them on is, a lot of them actually have Filipino teachers. And for
Mm-hmm.
Filipinos, English is also one of their second languages, right?
Correct.
And so I would want to hire completely native speakers, and preferably have teachers that can speak some English only and some that can speak English and Japanese to explain technical
Mm.
questions that are difficult. And so there are lots of different ways to approach the market. And I've been weighing all the different options lately.
Have you gotten in contact with one of your competitors to kind of see where they're at, or how they advertise to their market?
That is an excellent question. As far as reaching out specifically to these competitors, I haven't reached out to them yet, but there are some other competitors kind of more in like the online course, because these are not
Mm-hmm.
online, right? It is video chat.
These are
That's
in
like
person.
their thing. And so I've been trying to get in touch with people who are more like creating online courses, since that's kind of more the market that I'm trying to approach. And in Japan, this is kind of
Mm-hmm.
like creating a new market, because this isn't really a thing there,
I
right?
see.
So I've been in touch with Fluent U. I got in touch with one of their actual like YouTube content creators. And so she does marketing on YouTube to like show how people use Fluent U and stuff like that. So that's been pretty fun. But that is an excellent point. I should definitely try to reach out to someone at the company. Just need to learn more business Japanese.
Understanding the Japanese culture, I'm sure first impressions are very important for them, right? As you said, credibility is also a huge thing,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yeah.
So when you do launch your company, you want it to make a huge impact, right?
Yes.
You speaking about teachers brings me to my second, another question concerning them. you want to have really good teachers for when you launch, right? So you have great first impressions. So you have, so you can create a quick and good standing with the Japanese people, with your target market.
Mhm.
Where do you hope on finding your teachers?
So this is one of the perks of being a return missionary. So I know a lot of people who have served in Japan, are returned from Japan, and are also wanting to improve their Japanese skills, but it's just like not really happening. And they're really loving and patient, and they know what it's like to teach Japanese people English. They know what kind of questions come up, what pronunciation is hard, and those sort of things. So I would definitely tap into that resource, into that network. I probably I have actually a list of potential teachers that I intend to reach out to. But again, that would be after test launching the course, right? Because you want to see, hey, would people actually want to sign on for this before I try to
Mhm.
hire a bunch of people, right? So I've thought about it and I have an action plan prepared. I've just yet to implement it because I'm waiting for the right timing.
We talked about the difficulties the Japanese people have learning English, right?
Mhm.
And you'd say a lot of that contributes to the way they're taught English.
Yes.
So, would you say that's their number one difficulty, or do you think there's other factors at play doesn't that impedes their English learning process?
Good question. I think there are several things. When you look at the curriculum that they use in schools, it is syntax obsessed. Nothing about it is oriented towards actually expressing yourself, being able to get the gist of a conversation. It is a recited script that when someone says this, you say this. And they can all read English pretty good, but you try to have them string sentences together and it just all falls apart, right? So I feel like that is one of the major flaws in how they are approaching language learning. But I also think one of the big things that is a part of their culture is they don't want to lose face, right? They don't want to mess up in front of other people. And trying to speak a language that you don't know very well in front of someone that is fluent is pretty hard. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? And
Absolutely.
that is so hard for Japanese people. The ones who are willing to go for it and who know what English they want to learn, they progress better. They can hold better conversations, but it's still like if they mess up, they're like, "Oh, I guess my English isn't that good." And I'm like, "No, you're doing fine. This is part of the learning deal."
Right.
So,
Learning process.